Did you know that the exact same economic sector driving Brazil's cutting-edge AI banking revolution is also the one employing millions of informal, totally unprotected workers?
It's a pretty wild paradox when you really look at it.
It really is. I mean, it's dizzying. Welcome to our deep dive, everyone. I am your host, and as always, I'm joined by our resident expert to sort of, guide you through all this data.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
And just to set the stage for you all, today's date is Wednesday, 2026, 06/17.
Right, and the intelligence we're unpacking today is incredibly revealing. We're looking at research and data collection that goes right up to this very month, June 2026.
Exactly. Incorporating all that data from 2024 straight through early 2026. This is Macroeconomy AI, and the episode title today is The Service Sector in Brazil.
We are dissecting the absolute behemoth that makes up roughly 70% of Brazil's economy today. 70%. It's massive. And our goal is to understand what's really going on behind the scenes, how this giant sector impacts everything from like the apps you use every day to the nation's overall global competitiveness.
Right, exactly.
But before we jump in, we really want to express our genuine gratitude to you, our viewers and listeners, for tuning in. Please make sure to, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff.
It really helps us out.
It does. And this deep dive is brought to you by Dataflow Solutions, empowering your market insights. Welcome to channel Macroeconomy AI, bringing a compilation of analyses and news on macroeconomics, technology, and artificial intelligence.
So to give you a brief overview of our mission today, we're trying to extract the signal from the noise here.
Right.
We're basing this on a really in-depth sector report from Macroeconomy IA, and we've cross-referenced it with official data from the IBGE, the Central Bank, Brascom, and the World Bank.
So we've got the receipts.
We do. We want to help you understand the structure, the performance, and crucially, the future risks of this sector. Okay, let's unpack this, because the baseline numbers they're staggering. The service sector is the absolute pillar of Brazil's economy.
Yeah, accounting for about 70% of the GDP.
Right, which in 2024 was a massive 11.7 trillion reais. And it's not just money, it's people. It's over 70% of employment, too.
And it's growing fast. It grew 3.7% in 2024, which actually outpaced the general economy.
But here's my issue with that. On paper, a 70% service-based economy looks exactly like a developed nation, like the US or the UK. But it's not really an apples-to-apples comparison, is it? It feels like we were looking at two entirely different economies stacked inside a trench coat.
I love that analogy because it's so true. If we connect this to the bigger picture, economists call this structural heterogeneity.
Structural heterogeneity.
Right. So unlike the US or the UK, where services are relatively balanced in terms of output, Brazil's service sector is this massive paradox.
Why?
Well, you have these highly productive, just world-class sectors like IT and finance, literally coexisting with extremely low productivity survival level sectors.
Like informal retail or domestic services.
Exactly. And because they are technically in the same broad economic category, that bottom tier severely drags the national aggregate productivity down.
So the top is flying, but the bottom is anchoring it.
Exactly. In fact, aggregate productivity grew by a meager 0.1% in 2024.
Wait, 0.1%, but you just said the sector grew by 3.7%.
I did, and that's the scary part. It grew in volume, meaning more people working more hours, but the actual value generated per hour worked but barely moved at all.
Wow. Okay, so working harder but not necessarily getting richer. Let's look at the shiny part of that trench coat, though, the digital frontier.
Oh, yeah. The growth here is explosive.
It really is. The ICT sector, information and communication technology, it reached a staggering 919.7 billion reais in 2025.
Which is 7.2% of the GDP just by itself.
That's incredible. And look at the financial sector. In 2024, they invested 42.3 billion reais strictly into technology.
And you can see the results of that investment everywhere. I mean, look at the success of Pix, right? Or the rollout of Drex, the digital reel.
Pix is everywhere. And the AI adoption is wild. The data says 54% of major banks have already implemented generative AI.
More than half, yeah. And it's not just finance either. In education, distance learning, or EAD, absolutely dominated in 2024.
Right. The report said 73% of new private higher education enrollments were distance learning.
73%. That's a fundamental shift in how human capital is being developed.
But here's where it gets really interesting. despite all this digital boom, there is a crippling labor shortage.
A massive one.
The numbers show that between 2019 and 2024, the tech sector demanded 665,000 workers, but only 464,000 were trained.
Right, so you're looking at a deficit of nearly 30%.
Which is huge. Why does that matter so much on a macro level?
Because the growth of the digital economy is being artificially capped by a lack of human capital. It doesn't matter how much you want to invest in AI if you don't have the engineers.
So the money is there, but the talent isn't.
Exactly. Brazil is currently 9th in global ICT production, which is great. But if they want to move up or even just hold that position, education and training are the immediate bottlenecks.
You can't build the future if you don't have the builders.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's shift gears from the digital cloud to the physical world, the physical constraints.
Right, because you still have to move physical things and physical people.
Exactly. And there's a huge bright spot here, international tourism. It hit a 15-year high of $7.34 billion in 2024.
Which is wild, because that actually beats the 2014 World Cup year.
Right. Getting people into the country is working. But moving things around inside the country, that's a different story. Can you explain the Brazil cost when it comes to logistics?
Yeah. What's fascinating here is that logistics consume 18.4% of Brazil's entire GDP.
18.4%. That sounds like a massive tax on everything.
It basically is. And the reason is the transportation matrix. The country relies on roads for 70% of its cargo.
70% on trucks. In a country that huge.
Right. Instead of using rail or water, which are vastly more efficient for heavy cargo, they use trucks. And the country just bleeds money because of it.
It's like pouring money down the drain. But there is a plan to fix this, right?
There is. The National Logistics Plan projects that if they modernize this matrix shift more to rail and coastal shipping, it could unlock 224 billion reais in savings annually.
224 billion every single year.
Exactly. That is a massive strategic opportunity for optimization. It would lower costs for businesses, lower prices for consumers.
It would act like a huge stimulus package.
Yes.
So we've got the tech boom, the logistics bottlenecks. But what does this all mean for the everyday worker?
That is the ticking clock, the informality rate.
Right, because despite the booming tech sector we talked about, informality still hovered at 39% in 2024.
39%. That's nearly 40 million people.
40 million people without full social protections, no safety net.
Yeah, and they're largely concentrated in domestic work and small retail. It's that survival level tier of the trench coat we mentioned earlier.
And that ties directly into what might be the biggest short-term regulatory uncertainty hanging over everything.
Yeah.
The 2026 tax reform.
Oh, absolutely.
Go ahead.
Constitutional Amendment 132 from 2023. This is huge.
It is. And since this is a really heated topic, we have to be super careful to present both sides fairly here. We're not taking a side, just looking at the projections.
Right, of course.
Let's start with the government's view. What's the goal here?
So the government's view is that extinguishing cumulative taxes will be fiscally neutral in the medium term. They want to simplify a very complex system.
Basically making it so you aren't paying a tax on a tax as a product moves down the line.
Exactly. Creating a cleaner, value-added system.
The industry view, specifically from the service sector, is very different, right?
Very different. Entities in the sector are projecting that the new IBS and CBS combined rate could hit 17.7%.
Wow. And what is it right now?
Right now, the main service tax, the ISS, is usually between 2 and 5%.
Okay, jumping from 2 to 5% all the way to 17.7%.
Yeah.
That's a massive shock.
It is. And the industry argument is that this could completely devastate the micro and small businesses. And remember, those make up 98% of the service sector.
Right, because service businesses don't buy a lot of raw materials, so they don't get the tax credits that a factory would get under a value-added system.
Precisely. Their main input is human labor.
So the key takeaway here for you listening is that this transition period from 2026 to 2033 is going to completely redefine how services are priced and consumed in Brazil.
Absolutely.
And just a quick reminder for everyone, explicitly, none of this constitutes investment or business advice.
Yeah.
We're just reading the macroeconomic tea leaves here.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do we synthesize all this? We've covered a lot of ground.
To synthesize it, the Brazilian service sector is incredibly resilient. It really is. But its future hinges on 3 things.
Okay, what are they?
First, formalizing its workforce. You can't have 40 million people in the informal economy forever. Second, solving that tech talent deficit we talked about.
Right, closing that 200,000 worker gap.
Yes. And third, surviving this massive tax transition over the next decade.
It's a tall order, and it leaves me with a final sort of provocative puzzle for you all to chew on after the show.
Oh, I like these. What is it?
Well, if generative AI is already in 54% of major banks today, what happens in 5 years? Will AI become a tool that helps formalize and boost the productivity of those lowest-tier workers? Or will it just automate the high-end tech and finance jobs, hollowing out the very segment that is currently driving the sector's growth?
That is the big question, isn't it? Does it pull the bottom up or push the top down?
Exactly. Something to think about.
Well, before we wrap up, I do need to present our mandatory disclaimer.
Please do.
This deep dive is exclusively for informational and educational purposes, compiling public market data. It has no ideological bias and does not constitute investment, financial, legal, or tax advice. Economic projections change, and past performance does not guarantee future results. Always consult qualified professionals before making strategic or financial decisions.
Thank you. And a massive thank you to you, our listener, for joining us in unpacking this massive topic. We really hope to see you in our future deep dives.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone.
That was today's Macroeconomy AI. We'll leave it here. You all stay well and keep an eye out for our new broadcasts. Subscribe to our channel, access the links, and follow Macroeconomy AI on social media.
Bye.
Bye.